welcome back to the Candy Kingdom with Lace and Misty. The Candy Kingdom is a podcast for littles and bigs, where we provide resources and support and a safe space to learn together. So sit back, grab your sippy, stuffy and passy, and let's play! Hi everyone, welcome back to the Candy Kingdom with Lace and Misty. Thanks for tuning in. We've got lots of fun stuff in store today. And you may notice that it's actually just Misty saying the intro for once. If you've listened to us so much that you can tell us apart, thank you. We love you and appreciate you. That's really awesome. Anyway, this is a solo episode because sadly Lace couldn't be here for reasons which will likely be discussed in our next episode. So before we jump into this episode, I will give you a bit of news about myself. So I've started bullet journaling again with a bit of guidance from my caregiver. So when he was last here, he helped me. I've tried bullet journaling before and gotten kind of overwhelmed, tried to include too much information, included unimportant information, got stressed about my handwriting, all sorts, like making it pretty, all sorts of like perfectionist tendency kind of stuff. So he helped me to work out which tasks were most important and to set up a routine for when I get up in the morning, right after I get back from work, and also when I am just about to go to bed, which was one of my biggest struggles, was going to bed on time and waking up on time. Like I really, really just love sleeping. So, I'm a couple of days into it, and I've already stuffed up and gotten a punishment, but it was a fair enough punishment. I did something very, very naughty, which I'm not going to discuss on here. Anyway, so I found the format on Reddit, but then I kind of personalized it with different aspects of my little space and my personality. So I've got stuff about how much money I'm spending. I don't really need to track how much water I'm drinking because I have a 2-liter bottle that I get through almost every day, but I've got some stuff like practicing gratitude and something that I'm thankful for that happened throughout the day, and just a little thought bubble that just includes just random things that I've been thinking about throughout the day or just random reflection. And I've also got, instead of a to-do list, it's got a quote instead that just says she needs to sort out her priorities, which for all of my Potterheads, that is a quote by Ron Weasley. And then last week I was also on holidays, which is why we didn't really record an episode. That's all the news from me. So let's get right into the episode. Today we're going to be exploring a topic that I've mentioned many, many times already, but it is guiltlessly being a little. And I don't want to confuse you. I don't mean being guilty as in from being kink shamed or from, I don't know, worrying if this kink is okay, anything about that. No, it's those are entirely different issues. I mean, I feel guilty about my lifestyle that I love and adore and brings me so much happiness and comfort, but this lifestyle that also adds to the pollution of my environment, which I also love and adore and very much want to be a safe, healthy place for animals and people and plants and nature, etc., for many, many generations to come. I know that there are people who are like already like, oh gosh, here she comes preaching her earth-friendly stuff. But you guys don't know. I grew up watching Captain Planet, okay? He was serious. He inspired me to take care of my environment, and I'm not about to let him down, okay? Because with his powers combined, I forget the last part of what he says, but yes, he is my inspiration. So that brings me to this episode and some of the research that I did about how to be a more eco-friendly little. specifically if you're little, or more specifically if you're little who's an ABDL. But I also think I've included some things that are relevant to any type of littles and even caregivers, some things that they can consider as well. So in one of the chat groups that I was in, I mentioned how guilty I felt about wanting disposables because they were so bad for the environment. So I'd been getting reusables, which I've mentioned before, and I just envied the way that disposables looked on other littles, but I just was like, I can't do it. It's so bad for the environment. I also have OCD, which plays a major factor into like the amount of guilt and worry that I have around this. I love OCD. It's such a self-centered like mental illness. It's like, if I personally do this thing, it will ruin everyone's lives because I have such a massive impact on everything. Anyway, so someone in the Discord group that I was in mentioned, I can't remember who it was, I'm sorry, but they mentioned trying to reduce my environmental impact in other ways. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's such a light bulb moment. Like, that makes so much sense. And that's something that I try to do in my daily life anyway. But then I thought, if I focus even more on it, then my guilt about wearing disposables would be alleviated a little bit more. So this is entirely for selfish reasons. So I just wanted to start with some information about why this is important. So diapers take 250 to 500 years to decompose. Like, we're all going to be dead by then, hopefully. I don't know, vampires may exist or something, or they might come up with the immortality. It doesn't matter, I'm being silly. Okay, but anyway, they take that long to decompose. Like, I don't even know how far advanced that would be in your family line if you had offspring, but it seems like a lot. And in the US alone, there are 18 billion diapers being thrown out every single year. And I don't know where they're storing them all, but wherever they are, they're not decomposing. So I thought that was a really big deal and really startling statistic. And then the other thing that I had thought about was how so much of our gear is made out of plastic, which we all know is so bad for the environment. Like, look at the ditching straws movement. Like, and I know that oh gosh, I'm getting on my socialist, anti-capitalist soapbox, but capitalism is responsible for a lot of the environmental, like the negative impact that we see on the climate. But I also think that we can all do our little bits. And so instead of me just saying all of these different tips that you could easily find on the internet, which I encourage you to do, I thought about some things that we could talk about that would be relevant to our lifestyle. So some of them are a bit easier to kind of implement than others, but I hope you find any of it useful. So one of the first things that I thought about was how you could buy secondhand gear. Okay, so sometimes people outgrow things, or they just bought something that they didn't like, so then they put it up for sale. I actually really liked it on FetLife in some of the communities that I'm in. They have a kind of market thing where you can bring the stuff that you're not using anymore, and that, we know that kinky gear is expensive. So if you can get something for a little bit cheaper, even if it's been loved on a little bit, that's already a step to helping the environment. And then hand in hand with that goes donating or reselling your secondhand gear. Now, obviously, I'm a bleeding heart, so I identify more with donating, especially to people who are, obviously, they're not in the best economic situation. I know so many littles who struggle to afford things for themselves, and it's like, well, I can afford it for myself. Why don't I just, give it to you, and we can both be happy because you get the thing that I didn't like fit into, and I still get that then we match. Exactly. Then we match, and I made a new friend. If you're wearing the same onesie as me, that didn't fit me. And then another consideration to make, something that I found out throughout just Tumblr and being involved in social justice communities and being a supporter of transgender people, they often take donations of clothing for themselves because they have to change their whole wardrobe essentially most of the time. So that's really expensive. So that's something that you could consider as well. Okay, so that brings me to my next point. Now, littles might riot, and I'm sorry for saying this, but another point is just buying less gear. Asking yourself if you really, I'm so guilty of this. Like, I see something cute, and our community is so good at being creative and making appealing products that I'm immediately like, I need to buy this so much. But then that saves, not buying that thing impulsively saves you money. It lets you save money to get the next thing that you really actually want. And it also saves the environment. So just some things to consider there. I'm sure the caregivers are probably cheering right now because I'm encouraging littles to be responsible. Yeah. And then there's something that we spoke about in the episode about gear, which was episode 8, but we spoke a lot about making some things yourself. So I've been putting off sewing for months. I bought secondhand a sewing machine, and then I was given another secondhand one for free. So I've got 2 sewing machines that I haven't used yet, but I am planning on using them, and my first project is going to be a bib. And so like I've chosen something that's not too intimidating just because I'm not, a competent person who sews, but also just because it's something that I've been wanting, and making it myself with the stuff that I already have saves on the production impact on the environment and also the transport impact on the environment. So yeah, making as many things as you can for yourself is also just a fun project. And I feel like, I know I said this in the gear episode, but I feel like it inspires more pride because it's something that's going to be unique as well. So yeah. Okay, on to my next tip. So I'm actually using this website. I can't remember how I found it, but this is one of the easiest and simplest things that I've been doing. But there's a website called Ecosia. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's basically Google, except every time you use it, they plant trees. So I've used it. Actually, yeah, it tells you how many times you've used it and how many trees that amounts to. So I've used it about 75 times since I downloaded it, and that's 75 trees. That's 75 searches I could have just gone on Google and entered into there, but instead I used this website, and I've made a little bit of an impact. But there are so many websites like that. I know that there are some websites where if you play games, they'll it's not necessarily about the environment. I'm pretty sure a lot of them are, where they'll donate, they might donate food to a reservation, or they might donate food to people in need. There's different websites like that. I'll try to look them up and post them in the show notes. But they have like fun little games, which we like. As littles, we like to do that anyway. So why not play games and make an impact on your environment and on other people? We like to do good because we're cute and full of goodness. Here is another one for the caregivers in the room. So eating more fruits and vegetables is actually really good for the environment. So they've done tons of research that vegan diets are actually the most beneficial for the environment, because then we're consuming less meat, which means less animals are being raised, which means, cows give off a lot of methane, which impacts the the ozone layer, and they eat a lot as well. So, and then there's a lot of, I think it's water or something. I might be getting it wrong, but I just know that eating animals is not as good as for the environment as eating fruits and vegetables, which makes sense because we're consuming a living being. And I know I'm guilty of it. I've mentioned it several times. I am basically a carnivore, but yeah, just filling up your plates with more fruits and vegetables. And if any caregivers are listening and they're about to start gloating, just remember that you need to lead by example. So you are the one who should be advocating for this more often than you're little. So and doing it more often than you're little. So there you go. Another tip that I've gotten is eat local when you can. You can make it a little trip or a little date. There is also different farmers. Some of this stuff is expensive and not realistic, but there's also different farmers union things that they're called co-ops. They'll deliver local produce to you. But I also am really lucky to live in a state where beef production is a massive deal. So we've been buying beef in bulk and direct from the farm, and just eating that instead of getting it from a food chain, which kind of makes sure that it's a little bit more ethical. And then the traveling of the meat isn't that far. It's not mass produced. But the biggest thing that you can do is eat less meat, or even go meat free. Do a meat free Friday with your little or your caregiver. Okay, so next tip, I actually looked up to see if diapers were compostable, because I am getting a worm bin as part of my effort to reduce the waste that I produce. I also forgot to say that a lot of our waste and our landfill is full of food waste. We waste so much food. I think I read like 2 tons of food. And it just, because it's piled up with other stuff instead of just other food, it kind of mixes with like acids and stuff and pollutes waterways. I'll try to find the link that I found about when I was researching composting. But composting is really helpful, because then you've just got the things that are compostable by themselves being broken down, and I think it would take less time as well. I might not be completely right about that, but if you don't have the time to compost or get a worm bin, like I'm really excited to get one, and I'm trying to look for a see-through one, because then I would love to watch. It's like a little worm farm. I want to see what my little worms are doing and if they enjoy the food that I've been giving to them. But you can also collect decomposable scraps and donate them. There's actually an app in Australia, I'm not too sure if it's anywhere else, where you can match up with people who are looking for decomposable things. So I thought that was really cool as well. But yeah, diapers are actually decomposable if you have the ability to do your own compost. I wouldn't really be donating soiled diapers to anyone else. But if you do that, you can also donate your compost. So lots of places have community gardens, which is really cool. The only thing is that if you compost diapers that are soiled, you can't then use them for things that grow food. You can use them for other plants, which is great, because bees are in need of more plants. So there you go. Use your diaper compost to help the bees. Somewhat, you can say, no, I'm not eating Cheerios to save the bees. I'm actually doing something that matters. Yeah. So my next tip, I'm starting to get a little bit long-winded here, so I'll probably just summarize a couple of things at the end of the episode. But I was also thinking, like, we're a huge, I'm going to say it. We're a huge community, and we have a lot of companies that cater to us. So I think it would be really good if we advocated for those companies to reduce their environmental impact wherever they can, which would be or and actually, because that would be bonus. But if they can consider donating a portion of the money that they make to companies that help the environment, because those companies are directly contributing to the negative impact of the environment. So it would be good if they could use some of the money that they make from us to look out for this earth that we're all on. Because let's face it, if a different planet becomes habitable, we're not the ones that are going to be on it. So let's try and save this one as much as we can. Another simple tip is to wear less if you can. Like, obviously, this does not apply to you if you're wearing for, mental health issues or any medical issues, or just don't take this advice if it's going to be distressing to you in some way. And I kind of want to mention that for the whole episode. Like, this is just if you're capable of doing those things. It's kind of like when, vegans tell people, or people who are making less, to be vegan, and it's like, well, all that vegan stuff is really expensive and McDonald's is really cheap. I don't want that to be the same thing. Like, I acknowledge if it's not possible for you to do all of these things, but so if you can wear less, make it a little bit of a treat if you can. Just do it sporadically. We definitely are not using as much. I think I read it was 600 diapers that infants wore from until they were potty trained in about 2.5 years, which I think is so early for potty training, but what do I know? I wear diapers now, so, but yeah, so we're definitely not contributing as much as that per year, I would say, but then over a lifetime, I feel like if you're an age-long ABDL, like that's going to add up, so reducing where you can would be really good. So another thing that I've gotten here is being a soggy babe. So I know lots of people I follow on Tumblr, Tumblr and Twitter and Instagram, like to get as soggy as possible. And I'm not judging, because I am one of them. And that is one of the reasons I can't wait for my disposables, because it's really difficult to do that with reusables, because it basically doesn't wick moisture away as quickly as possible. So like, for one of the reasons why I like using them, the disposables that I have gotten, and being able to use them multiple times, is just because it feels warm, but it doesn't feel kind of like wet to me. I don't know. I feel like I'm going into too much detail. But anyway, so being soggy means that you're flushing the toilet less and you're using less toilet paper. So be a soggy babe. And then my last couple of tips are looking for environmentally friendly alternatives whenever possible. So again, reusable dips, reusable napkins, reusable, what are they called? Bibs. I don't think there are disposable bibs, actually. Anyway, glass sippy bottles are something that I've seen a lot. So they're eliminating the plastic, and glass is pretty much infinitely recyclable. If you do recycle it, it can be broken down. So make sure you're actually recycling. And then there's different things like biodegradable baby wipes, which I use. Lots of cute baby things like actually make sure that they're biodegradable, because now companies are getting savvy and are putting degradable on things, which like could mean, oh yeah, all diapers are degradable in 250 to 500 years. So make sure that they're actually biodegradable options. And then, we've heard about the bamboo straws and the steel straws and all of that, but just try to be as environmentally friendly as possible. And my last tip is, if you do get a period, if you are someone who menstruates, consider alternative hygiene products if it's safe and healthy and affordable to do so. So I can't use certain hygiene products for my period, but I do have reusable Modi Body Panties, which are a company that does, cool panties with them sewn in. You can also make your own if you're better at sewing than I am. But I also get to use my Rears cloth pull-ups, which is really exciting. I get to feel cute in a time where I mostly want to beat stuff up and lay in bed and eat chocolate and be miserable. So that's one thing that kind of pulls me out of my funk. And I also know I'm doing my bit for the environment. So that's pretty much it for me, guys. I've also got lots of different things, lots of little small tips that, are things that other people would be considering in their vanilla lives. So you can reach out to a community. I'm actually part of a Facebook group and just some other blogs about what you can do to reuse and recycle and reduce your waste. So that's where I've gotten quite a few ideas for things, including composting. And I almost forgot to mention, in Australia, your compost bin could be subsidized by your local council. So you can look that up and see I think it's up to 80% off on worm bins and compost bins. So you could definitely see if that's an option for you as well. I do understand that composting takes a bit of work, which is why I'm getting a worm bin. And they produce fertilizer, which I'm going to use as well. Some other things that I've thought about is, we do like to color and stuff like that. And the physical act of coloring is therapeutic, but, doing something like coloring on the iPad as well reduces the amount of paper that you use. And yeah, things like that. I don't think I've got anything else to say. I'm sure I'll think about it as soon as I stop recording. But thank you so much for listening, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode. It was my first solo episode. I probably was speaking really fast because I'm a bit nervous without my podcast wife. I also wanted to give a shout out to Panda Kitten for sending us some information that is helping us with our audio. Hopefully you noticed that the audio sounds a little bit better, and she's awesome, and thank you so much for that suggestion. And I also want to give a shout out to Little Phoenix Kitten for tagging us in an ask that someone posted on Tumblr, and we really do want to hear from you guys and interact with you more. So if you have any questions or suggestions or ideas, feel free to contact us at the Candy Kingdom on all the social medias. So we have, I hope, and Lace probably does too, hope that you have a sweet week, and we together will catch you next time, Candy Crew. Bye.